What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of a dive into looking at shoulder health, shoulder flexibility, but also shoulder strength to make sure that you can kind of bulletproof your shoulders with just a couple of drills and make sure they're feeling strong, stable, so you can perform at your best when it comes to whatever strength endeavors you're after. Handstands, handstand push-ups, planche, front lever, all of that good stuff. So let's just jump straight into it. As always, if you're just looking for a well-structured program just to get on with whatever your goal is, strength, steals, handstands, flexibility, there's always my app tribe, which is the top link in the description down below. Right, so today's video, I'm gonna look at basically two drills, two exercises which can kind of bulletproof your shoulders through essentially most of the ranges of motion you're gonna need to develop. Now, the shoulder is a very complex joint, and I'm not going to pretend like these two drills are going to be the be-all and end-all of training for your shoulders. They're not. But for an overall well-rounded approach, it is important that we're considering these are just accessory movements. These are the things that you might add at the end of your work. We want to make sure that the majority of our workout is going to be some good compound lifting movements, things like the handstand push-ups, things like pull-ups. Those sort of things are going to be your bread and butter. And then these movements are going to complement and help, one, improve flexibility of the shoulders, but also train the rotator cuff and some of the other supporting structures in the shoulder. Right, so enough rambling, let's just jump into the exercises and see what exactly it is you can do. So the first exercise is going to target a few different ranges of motion that are core to develop. It's going to tick the boxes for external rotation, upward rotation, and shoulder flexion. All of these movements are key if we want to have a decent shoulder range of motion when we're trying to lift our arms overhead, do anything overhead, if you want to work on handstands or anything like that. These are going to be crucial things to have strong and also have access to. The drill we're going to be using today is a prone military press. You could also think of this as a prone handstand push-up, and by prone I mean simply lying face down on the ground, and we're going to replicate a similar movement with our hands as we would to a standing military press or a handstand push-up. This exercise can effectively be done with just body weight only initially, and then as we get stronger, as we want to challenge ourselves more, we can add weight to this exercise. So the starting position we're going to look at is, as I said, prone on the floor, face down, and we're going to have our hands by our sides in a Y position. The important starting position of the shoulder blades is we want to first depress and retract the shoulder blades. So we're going to pull our shoulder blades away from our ears, pin our shoulder blades back together. We're going to keep our elbows tucked into our sides, and then we're going to try and lift our hands into external rotation. So we want to think about keeping the elbows low and the hands high. That's an important cue to remember throughout this drill. Press upwards, again, maintaining elbows low, hands high. By using the cue elbows low, hands high, we're going to focus on maintaining that external rotation as we perform this movement. Keep moving the arms overhead until we reach a straight arm position. We want to finish with the hands at around shoulder width. We then pause in this end position. This is that maximum shoulder flexion position. We're going to be working the traps hard here. This is going to help develop a little bit of that overhead flexibility. And then simply, we're going to reverse the motion. So a couple of things to note when it comes to tweaking this exercise. Number one is if you struggle with flexibility of the shoulders, if this is too hard for you, if you find that your arms and elbows are just dragging on the floor as you're doing this exercise, you're simply going to have to raise your body up slightly. So you can either do this lying face down on a bench, some yoga blocks or something. It doesn't really matter too much. You're just going to basically need to provide a little bit more distance between your body and the ground so you have room to do this exercise. Obviously, not everyone is going to be able to hit that perfect 180 degrees end position. We're going to be at a percentage of that, but the idea is to work towards that end position of getting those arms straight overhead. As I said, this one is about developing strength and also flexibility. We can perform this one for somewhere between 8 to 12 repetitions. For this one, we can use a nice simple tempo of 1, 1, 1, 1, which means we're basically going to press up with 1 second. We're going to pause in that top shoulder flexion position for 1 second. We're going to come back with 1 second, and then we're going to pause in that max external rotation position at the bottom for 1 second. Right, so we've got external rotation, we've got upward elevation, and we've got shoulder flexion, all kind of ticked off. We're going to help strengthen some of those external rotations. We're going to help strengthen the traps. Now we're going to move on to exercise number 2, in which we're going to be primarily focusing on shoulder extension, scapular retraction, and depression. For this drill, we're going to be using a shoulder extension lift. Again, this is a nice simple exercise, but the technique is crucial to making the most out of it. For this one here, we're going to use a bar, and that is going to help fix our hands width. As we get stronger, we can add weight to this, but for the moment, the bar or a towel, even resistance band, something that's gonna help fix those hands in place is gonna be perfect for the moment. Holding that stick, towel, object, whatever we're using to fix our hands in place, we're gonna set the hands, first of all, in an externally rotated position. So we make sure we have our palms facing down, not up. And we're gonna place these hands just outside of shoulder width. From here, we're gonna set our shoulders in depression and retraction. So basically, standing still, we're gonna try and reach as far away to the floor as we can. We then are gonna just lift the hands as high as we can, pause in that top position, whatever level of shoulder extension you can get, and then simply lower back to that starting position. As we try to lift the hands up, I want you to think at all times that you're gonna try and reach your hands as far away from the center of your body as you can, and also try to keep the shoulders down and away from the ears, so we maintain that depression, and we try to avoid this shrugging and rounding of the shoulders, which is quite common with this drill. Right, so a few modifications that we can make. Number one, if you noticed, as I said just a second ago, you have that tendency to shrug up the shoulders, to round the shoulders, or even to lean forward when you're doing this drill, we can just check ourselves, form check ourselves, and perform this drill just standing facing the wall. So if we stand facing the wall, it's gonna immediately become slightly uncomfortable if we do have that tendency to do any of those bad movements. It's gonna force us to keep that chest upright, the head upright, and really try to reach the hands away from the body. Modification number two is if you are just simply struggling to lift up the stick in this drill, there's a couple of ways in which we can change things. First of all, I'd recommend going a little bit wider with the hand width. I personally wouldn't go really, really wide because it's just gonna become a little bit pointless, but certainly taking it a hand, maybe two hands outside that shoulder width is not gonna detract away from the drill, and it's gonna make things slightly easier. Then as we can lift a little bit higher, we can start to move that hand inwards. Lastly, we can actually just change the vector itself. So when we're standing and lifting up, gravity is gonna be working most against us at that hardest point, that top point of the movement. So just like the first drill, we can perform this prone, lying flat on the ground and doing the exact same movement, but because we're gonna be prone, gravity is gonna be acting downwards, which means it's gonna be hardest at the beginning of the movement, the easiest bit, and less at the top of the movement, which is the hardest bit. We can perform this one, I would say, anywhere again between 8 to 12 repetitions, and I would recommend using a tempo of 1-0-1-2, which means we're gonna lift up in 1 second, we're gonna pause for 2 seconds in that top shoulder extension position, gonna lower under 1 second, and then repeat that movement. But that's basically it. With these two drills, you can kind of cover and nicely tick off most of the ranges of motion you're gonna need to develop for the shoulders. As I said, these two exercises are both about building strength, but also about building flexibility. If you have good shoulder external rotation, good flexion, and good extension, you're gonna be able to perform a wide variety of movements with plenty of capacity. I would highly recommend doing both of these exercises for 2 to 4 sets with the rep ranges given just at the end of your session. Once or twice a week will be plenty, and I'm sure you'll see some gains in your shoulder range of motion and also the stability and strength of them as well. As I mentioned, this is by no means a definitive guidance. There is plenty of different ways you can strengthen the shoulders. This should be considered in part of a comprehensive approach with lots of other compound movements as well. But you know, if you think I've missed one, or maybe you have a favorite one that you prefer to these two, please leave that suggestion in the comments section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you did enjoy this video, you can also hit a thumbs up button and support the channel. Right next to it also is that subscribe button if you want to join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe. Don't miss out on any more future videos. But that has basically been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and peace.